Okay, I think we're live. Let me make sure I've got audio. Yep, there we go. Okay, here we go. So, tonight, glazing. Make sure you guys can all hear me. It looks like we're good. Oh, good. Gibson, stop finally trying to get onto my lap. Let's see. There we go. Oh no, I better not refresh that. That may not give me the outcome I'm looking for. Let me go ahead and hit record before I forget. Make sure we're all... Wow, this is massive, massive delay here. Hold on, let me see if I can... Okay, Joseph says we're all good. So I think we just have a way big delay, more so than usual tonight. So let's go ahead and get started. This palette, I just scraped some of my paint off from last week. It's still kind of a mess. Added more liquid. The liquid will dry in your palette even when it's sealed because liquid is a fast drying medium, so that always has to be replaced, like from one day to the next usually. And okay, so let's go ahead and start putting some color out. I'm going to start on him first, and so I'm going to start with some indigo. Now the colors aren't really that big of a deal. As you guys hear me say this all the time, it is the values that you want to pay attention to. Dark's dark enough, light's light enough, and oh, you know what? Hold on, I did not turn off autofocus. Let me go ahead and fix that really quick. One second. Okay. There we go. And is this actually the right? Yeah, that looks brown in there. Hold on, maybe my color saturation. Yeah, we'll hype that up a bit and see if that lets you guys see the color a bit better. And then let me do the same thing to the easel really quickly. I knew I was forgetting something. Okay. Much better. Here we go. Hi, Sergio. You haven't seen much of Chicken lately? Well, I'm oil painting, so he can't be in here anyway, but he can't be in here if Gibson's in here, and Gibson's still new, and so he's just kind of used to following me everywhere. Those two can't be together. So Gibson will eat chicken. Well, both my Italian Greyhounds, it's the same thing anyway. But yeah, that is why you have not seen Chicken lately. Chicken's fine, totally good, but I want to keep him that way. So in a room with oil paint, not good. In a room with a loose Greyhound, also not good. So that is why there. Okay, so there's the indigo. I'm going to add, we've got brown matter. I haven't opened some of these in so long, I probably should have brought pliers in to make my life a little easier. This is going to be like a very reddish brown, almost a burgundy. I'm going to put some Terra Rosa, which is like a burnt sienna. I just couldn't find my burnt sienna, so yeah, that'll still work. This one's a little bit more opaque. Okay. What else did I pull out? Zinc White. Actually, I don't think I'm going to get to the Zinc White tonight. So probably don't need to put that out. So the Zinc White, you guys see me use the transparent mixing white all the time with acrylics. Zinc White is kind of similar when it comes to oils. It's going to be a more translucent white, and it's got a bluish tint to it, like a cool tint. It's not like blue, but it's definitely a cool white. And so I'll use that for quite a few of the highlights when I need more. But I'm not there yet. And then we've got some violet, which is off camera. I apologize. And I think that should be enough to get me started. I may need... I think I'll be okay. Actually, there was one more color I wanted. I had a Van Dyke brown. I had it in my hand earlier. Why did I not bring that up? Nope. There we go. Boz said, have you ever tried, I can't say it, medium? If so, which do you prefer, liquid or graphite? Whatever it is. I think I used it with a Smart Art box. I didn't notice a huge difference. I don't actually even know what the difference is. I didn't use it enough to have much of an opinion one way or another. Liquid is just what I've used forever, and so it's, I mean, I'm just used to it, so that's kind of why I'm going to keep reaching for that one. So I can't give you much information there. I know Jason Morgan uses those, so you may want to talk to him about that. He may be able to give you a bit more information, but I can't compare the two. I didn't use the other enough to have an opinion one way or another on it. But I believe they're just both fast drying mediums. Veek said, is there a time after a couple hundred of hours where you finally break through and make it because you persisted, or does it require change of approach or both? Well, what do you mean by break through or make it? I think it depends on what your opinion is, or what you consider breaking through or making it. Is it breaking through and your art suddenly becomes a lot better, or is it breaking through and other people recognize that your work is better? I mean, I think there is a bit of a difference there, but let's say you mean as far as your career goes. Persistence is really the key, but not just persistence. It's persistence in figuring out how to market yourself, figuring out how to get yourself in front of people. And that can be done through persistence, or it can be done through just kind of figuring out marketing. It doesn't have to take, I mean, it took me a very long time before anyone knew who I was, for the most part. That could have been done faster had I gotten into YouTube faster, or social media, but I started before internet. You know, when I first got into art, it was in I want to say 96, 97. The internet was barely a thing at the time. So, you know, trying to make it that way couldn't really happen. And now I don't think artists have to wait that long. But, you know, being persistent, it would depend on what you're doing to be persistent. Is your persistence doing the same thing over and over and it's not working for you? Then yeah, you're going to want to change your approach. And I would say that's kind of the same no matter whether it be your skill level or being recognized as an artist. You may have to change your approach. I mean, I have throughout the years several times when I realized just focusing on my website wasn't the answer. Okay, now I need to add social media, you know, mix the two. Things like that. Sorry, if you hear weird sounds, I'm scratching my foot on the bottom of my chair. That's weird. You ever do something weird in front of people and then realize, wow, that's weird, I should probably stop doing that. Yeah, that. So yeah, I mean, the persistence, I think it depends on what you're being persistent with. If you're being persistent with something that just has not worked and you're not seeing any growth from it, it's time to figure out how to rework what you're doing. I think that would be my answer there. I mean, I could probably talk on that subject. It's a good question for a while. If it's as far as breaking through skill level, yeah, a lot of it is just being persistent and just continuously painting, but also figuring out like, okay, my work doesn't look right now how I want it to. Why? That you have to figure out the why. You can't just look at it and go, it's not very good. It's not what I wanted. But why? So find another artist whose work, because you hear the tips all the time where like, never compare yourself to another artist. That is the worst advice that is so wildly fed and shoved down artists' throat. Don't compare yourself to another artist. I mean, that's great if you're not trying to improve. If you're trying to get your work to really improve that, actually, I don't think I want to start here. I think I want to start with some of the pinks. If you want to really improve, compare yourself with those other artists and figure out what it is you like better about theirs. Like if you're thinking, oh, I wish I was that good. Okay, the point is not to beat yourself up. The point is to look at it and go, well, what do I need to do differently in my own work to achieve that skill level? What is different between their work and my work? If you can pinpoint that can be the thing that'll push you forward. And some of it is just skill and persistence and practice. You know, you've got a lot of elements that come into play. But I mean, if something is not working for you, you've been doing the same thing again and again, whether it be in your business or in your painting, and there's no improvement, at some point you do have to go, what can I do differently to get better results? So it's not that you want to give up, you're going to be persistent, but what can you do differently to get the results you're looking for? Okay. Chrissy says, or Kirsty, I can't read. This is way too far away from me tonight. Kirsty says, "Hi Lisa, I'm happy I got to catch the live stream. Have you settled fully into your house art studio? I've just moved across Australia and finally set up my studio again." Oh, congratulations on the move and that you made it through, because that's hard. I can sympathize. Yeah, no, we're pretty much in. I'm now starting to work on stuff like the yard. Like my yard is freaking infested with my brain just shut down, crabgrass and Dallas grass. So I've spent the last 3 days, no, today too. So a total of 8 now, almost 8. The 8th is almost full. Trash bags, like kitchen 13-gallon trash bags full of weeds I have been pulling for the last couple of days. Now the good thing is, if you're an artist who paints like this, it turns out that attention to detail or the obsessive nature that will sit and do all that kind of detail works on picking weeds too. Man, did my obsession, like, I want to work on it constantly. It's dark out and I'm like, well, how can I set up lights so I can see what I'm doing and keep picking weeds? But yeah, the weed thing is kind of an issue. So, yeah, I just keep moving from one project to another. So I would say we're mostly settled in, but I have many, many projects I need to do. Like, I mean, I guess that'll probably take years to get most of the stuff you want done finished. Let's see. Sally said, "Did I read somewhere that zinc white is what causes cracking in oil paint?" So it can. The trick, and that's a good question, the trick with zinc white is to do it only in thin layers and not heavy. So you're never going to apply it with a palette knife. You're never going to paint that on thick like you could with other paints. I don't typically paint anything thick with oil paint, so I don't really have to worry about it. I've never had an issue with it. But painting thick, like let's say using a palette knife to create your snow-capped mountains or just thick paint in general, never use zinc for that. It also, I believe, has lead in it. A lot of paints do, but I'm pretty sure zinc white was one. I think this one does. Does it say on it? It should say somewhere. Yeah, this one contains lead. So, you know, you've got some things you want to watch there, but yes, that is definitely something to be aware of with this paint, is that it can, and not, you know, it depends on how thick you're laying it on there. So, like if you're doing glazes for like rays of light coming through the sky or underwater, you're generally going to be safe there because you're doing it really, applying it very thin. You would not want it to be applied thickly. So I think the trick is just to kind of have an idea of how you can best use that paint without having issues. And that really is just painting thin. So what I'm doing, the paint here, the liquid is not just a fast dry medium, it is also used to thin the paint. And as you thin it, the more of the liquid that you use, the more translucent your paint is going to be. So like with acrylics, it's the same thing what we do, how we use water to thin that. So it thins the paint, but it also makes it more translucent. So you can see I'm just getting a tint, just like that hint of color in here where I need that. And so I just pick up more of the liquid. Let's get a little bit of this guy in here to have an orangey look. I've got to thin that quite a bit because that one's a bit more opaque, a bit thicker. And so I just pick little areas that I want, and I'm just taking a clean brush and just smudging that out a bit. Now the thing with oil, the trick with this, because one of the things that you hear people say all the time with oils, I made mud. I can't stop making mud when I paint. The reason that happens is oils blend very easily. It's an amazing thing about it that I love so much. But they also blend very easily, and a lot of people that have a tendency to think, oh, 2 brush strokes of blending looked great, so 50 must look better. No, now you just stirred everything together. You just mixed all your ingredients. We're not mixing ingredients here. We want to see where the orange versus the magenta versus the green versus whatever is. You're not trying to mix them together. So the trick is to not over blend it. Let's see. Whoops, scrolled too far here. Whoa, bunch of questions to get caught up on. Oh my gosh, whole bunch. Hold on 1 second. Veek said art becomes better. Yeah, your art is okay, so if that was your question, and I think I covered that. It will become better with practice, but you also have to step back and go, okay, I'm not getting the results I want. Why? Is it an issue of I've only been doing this for 2 months and I just need more practice? Or is it an issue of I've been doing this for 2 years and I'm not seeing any improvement? Now I need to rethink my technique, adjust something, and you have to figure out what that something is. Thanks, Xerxes. Nick said, hello, love your work. Thank you, Nick. Sergio said, do you see yourself as a well-established artist with a consistent brand and unique brand? Oh, that's a weird thing to answer. I don't think you can, like, that's a weird one. I'm not I mean, I think I have a definite brand, but it's more, I think, about video creating and teaching than it is as an artist. Although I do know my work, like most people who are familiar with my work, when they see a painting that's mine, they recognize it as either looking just like mine or actually being mine. So, I mean, that's a thing, but I don't know if I would ever consider myself well established. Like, it's a weird thing. I think I'm more established as, like I said, for videos and teaching than I am for the artwork itself, because I don't push to sell it. And it's not that I couldn't, it's that I spend more time making videos and I've not made the effort to do galleries or to get my stuff that I'm selling out there. So buyers, I think, in order to consider myself more established, I would need more buyers to know who I am. And I've not really focused on that aspect of my career. I focus more on the teaching aspect and the video making aspect. So I guess established when it comes to teaching, yes. When it comes to the actual artwork with buyers, I need to work on that aspect of my career. I need to hire someone to work on that aspect of my career in order for that to happen. Lindy Paint said, you've probably answered this many times, but how is the new dog settling in? He's doing great. He's asleep behind me. He's been the perfect dog. He's the easiest dog to move in. I don't know how much of it is just greyhounds are amazing anyway, and how much of it is he's older, and I've always started with puppies. So to start with a 2-year, or not 2 years, a year and a half. No, he'll be 2 in May. So, math. You figure it out, because I'm sure terrible at it. But it's not the same as starting with a puppy, so he's already been trained. He walks nicely on a leash. He's got good potty habits. Like he said, no accidents indoors. He actually rings the bell at the back door to let me know when he does want to go outside. So he's been the easiest dog to just get used to our life and our home and everything. So yeah, he's been doing great. I can't say enough good about that dog. Let's see. I will definitely be getting another greyhound in the future. Michael said, ask yourself the most important question. Why do I want to paint? Once you have that answer, go for it. It's simple. That's good advice. That's really good advice. And I think that's one of the things too. A lot of people get caught up. They don't know why. I mean, what are your goals? Because I wouldn't necessarily give the same advice to somebody who's doing painting as a hobby for their, just their own enjoyment, versus somebody who's trying to make a career out of it, versus somebody who's focusing on, that's really good advice. Kelly said, your house is so new. I'm surprised you already have such a weed problem. Yeah, me too. The weird thing with the weed problem is apparently is not supposed to, I need more paint out. These are not all the colors that I need. It shouldn't have happened until springish. But because we've had such a warm summer, let's pull these over. Because the summer's been so warm, or not summer, the winter has been so warm, the crabgrass has come up way early. And I didn't treat for pre-emergence or anything like that, because I didn't want to damage the Bermuda, which is not yet established. I was concerned. I don't know if it would have made a difference, but it made me nervous, and I didn't think he'd need to. We just moved in 2 months ago, and the grass was dormant when we moved in. They had just put the sod down, and it immediately went to dormancy. So I didn't think that was something I would need to worry about. And I mean, the amount of weeds out there is just pretty freaking insane. And I'm torn between being frustrated, and I may talk to the builder and be like, okay, seriously, I have a yard of weeds and I've never even had grass yet. And I pulled so much with the weeds that I've got big bare spots of mud now. And now I've got mud being tracked in from the dogs, and it is a little bit frustrating. I mean, the Bermuda, hopefully now that I'm getting the crabgrass out, will give it some time to take over. Or a chance to take over. I mean, Bermuda's a weed too. It'll take over everything if it's not competing too heavily with the other things. So I've got True Green. I called them or set up an appointment. They'll be coming out next week. So I'm going to let them try to kind of take over, hopefully fertilizing the grass and making it all happy. So that is the plan. I don't know. I don't know a whole lot about taking care of a lawn. I know plants, but not, that doesn't even go in there, not lawn work. So this is a little new for me. What do I want? I guess that'll work. I remember what I was looking for, more of an orange. So no, come back. that wasn't as orange as I wanted. So yeah, now on the flip side, it's been weirdly enjoyable. I mean, it's hard work, but like my muscles are so sore. Like I've had massive, like really big workouts. So it was kind of an easy, I'd rather do a workout like that than actually work out because that was way more fun. But yeah, the fact that there is weeds. And the other thing that really bugged me was the severity of like how many rocks underneath all of my grass. Like when I'm walking on it, I'm feeling the rocks shift, like grinding against each other because there's so many. And that's going to be an issue because from what I'm reading, and again, I don't know a lot about grass, from what I'm reading, with our summer heat here, it will, it can burn the grass because it overheats and then the roots get fried. And so I don't know how that's going to go. I need to talk to the builder about that. But I'm like, wow, you guys did a terrible job out there. I'm sure they used like the cheapest wherever they could get the Bermuda from. So I don't know if it was infested with weeds to start with, or I don't know. Okay. Hi, Lisa. I hope you're doing great. Thanks. When you start a new painting, do you know exactly what steps and what order you'll go in to reach the end result, or do you kind of wing it? I wing it. Absolutely. And I'd like to say, oh no, I have a straight plan because it would sound fancier, but honestly, I mean, I have a general idea. I just build. I copy what I see and I build from that and keep layering. And you're going to have some layers that don't look so great. You're going to have some layers that do look so great. I mean, you're just going to keep building and adjusting things. I think that's what it is. It's this trial and error and adjusting as you work to get the result that you're looking for. But it's not, I think, if you have in your head that you have to have a straight plan all the way through, I think that can be a bit overwhelming, and that's not really how it works. For me, I'm just going to layer until it looks good. So I look at my painting and I'll go, oh, I can't talk. I'm on serious lack of sleep today, so I apologize. I don't know how I'm going to get through this stream because I'm so tired. But anyway, where was I going with that story? You're going to ask yourself or look at an area and go, okay, I need this to be darker, so I've got to make that dark, and then it fades to light, so I'm going to make that light. I mean, that's really what it boils down to. It's not okay, step one, shade part of the ear. Step two, let that fade mildly into you don't think of it that way. You just jump in and start forming things until it starts looking how you want it to. That was a good question. And it's actually a question that comes up quite often. There's not I mean, you can look at, and maybe that's why it kind of appears that way, because you can look at tutorials and videos and they're like, next step, we're going to do this. Next step, we're going to do that. But generally, that is not how my mind works when I actually start painting. Come on, computer, wake up. When I actually start, are you plugged in? Yeah, you're plugged in. I'm just like, okay, I'm going to start on the ear. This area is dark, paint it dark. This area needs to be light. This is, paint it light. I'm just looking at the photo and getting it to look how I want. And as I work through, I just keep adding more and more detail. You're just messing with it continuously until it looks how you want it to. Mrs. Ray said, do you just do one painting art piece at once, or do you tackle several? If more than one, what's the most you've tried to balance at one time? The most I did was with oil paints, and I rotated between 3. And the reason that I did that was I needed one when I wanted to paint all day from the time I woke up, until I went to sleep. You need to let one dry, but you hit a point with oils where one area needs to dry before you can go on to the next. So while that one was drying, I would grab the other one, and I just had I would rotate through, and they all started and finished right around the same time, like within a day of each other. But normally I don't. Now, especially with YouTube, I focus on one at a time, and I don't really recommend that people do too many at once. You'll never finish anything. So much of your work will just never be completed, and so I do recommend finish your work before you jump onto the other. The exception, of course, oils. If you've got that dry time, but you still have time to paint, then you're going to need more than one going. So yeah, I don't like to have more. When I used to do that, I just didn't finish things. Like you get bored with one and you're like, oh, I'll start another one. And that one you got bored with never gets finished. So I force myself to finish everything before I move on. So what I'm going to do, I don't really clean my brushes as I work too much. Sometimes I do, usually I don't. I just get a brush. This one's for my lighter colors. I'll use this one for my bluish tones. So I just switch brushes with whatever I need, whatever color I'm going with. And so that indigo is going to almost make the darks seem more black. It's going to cool everything down a bit. I'm just gonna smudge that into where I put that violet. Sergi said, when should we expect a full Derwent Lightfast range review? When I contact them and have them send me some. Haven't gotten that far yet. Mrs. Ray said, how long did it take you to stop seeking validation from others, if you ever did, to just know your art is perfection? Well, I don't ever think my art is perfection. I don't think I never want to reach a point where I think my art is perfection, because then you stop growing, you stop getting better. And there were times in my life where I accepted, like, oh, this is just how I paint. Like, this is just, I have to accept this is my skill level, this is how I paint. And that entire time that I had that mindset, I didn't get better. There was no real improvement. The improvement didn't happen until I realized there could be improvement, that I don't have to limit myself to that mindset, that this is as good as it will get. So I hope to never hit a point where I feel like everything's perfect right now, because I want to constantly be improving. But seeking validation for others, I don't know if you ever stop. I mean, I think that's more of a personality difference than an like how you are as an artist. Like, people who tend to be confident in general aren't necessarily going to worry too much about getting validation from others, although you do have to worry about it to an extent when you're making a living off of it, because if no one likes it, you make no dollars and can't pay your bills. So I'm a fan of being able to pay my bills, as it turns out. So yeah, that's, I don't know if what I'm doing, I'm just wiping off an area where I didn't want the magenta, and because what's underneath is dry, like none of that comes off. It's completely dry. So I can take a Q-tip or whatever and just wipe those areas off. But I don't know if I could say, and it's different too, because when I started with painting, and I've said this several times, already tonight several times, there was no social media. I didn't have that pressure. I painted what I want. I showed people, and when you show people in person, people rarely say mean things to you. People don't, it's not like the internet where they think they can say anything that crosses their mind. So I never really had to deal with too many harsh words until YouTube, and by then I had enough confidence to be like, screw you, I'm happy with it. That's all that really, in this case, I'm fine with that. So, I've had it, and I still do get people that will occasionally make random rude comments where you're just like, what is wrong with you? But by that point, luckily, I had enough confidence. And again, and I'm not saying like perfection, I felt that there was perfection, but I had enough confidence in my work that I was happy with what I was creating to where that didn't like destroy me. And I think that can be hard with a new artist, especially where that just hurts when somebody says something nasty. So the bigger thing, I think, is not when it stops happening, but learning how to deal with it when it does happen, and learning that those people that say those things, their opinion doesn't actually matter. I mean, realistically, does the person who says something nasty to you, were they going to buy your work anyway? No, they weren't real fans. Like with art, it's not, art isn't as much about like your skill level or how perfect you are as just your art reaches or speaks to somebody specific. No matter what it is you're painting, there's going to be someone who is drawn to that style, to that everything. So you've got to find that person. So it's more about finding them than it is pleasing everybody. When you're trying to please everybody, you don't. So I think that it's more of a change of mindset in that sense than your skill level becoming to a point where you're suddenly confident. Like you have to not just teach yourself not to worry too much about that, the people who are being like over the top rude. Of course, taking advice from people is one thing, but I'm not saying don't listen to anybody, but don't also let it tear you down. Like if you're worrying too much about what everybody else thinks, I don't think you experiment enough. And with painting or drawing, with art in general, you have to be willing to experiment. You have to be willing to try new things. And if you're too hung up on everything needing to be perfect or getting that validation from others, then you're not going to be willing to make those attempts. I think you're going to be too afraid of what somebody else says, and that's going to hold you back as an artist. So I don't think there's a time that it stops, other than being aware that you need to get, I'm not saying you specifically, but anybody would need to get over worrying about that validation too much. You've got to be willing to create what it is you're passionate about, and then find the people who like what it is you're creating. That's the much better way to go about things. And what size brush do you use to get those details so flawless? They're not flawless. Trust me, I'm making a hot mess over here. But this one is a #1 script liner that I've got in my hand right now. Heather said, did Gibson figure out you know best when it comes to storms? No, he did not. He rang those bells. The only way I was able to get him to stop is to go in another room. And he does that all the time. It's not just because storms were happening. But he likes to go outside and just wander and sniff the air. And if the sun is out, he wants to lay in the grass. He loves laying in the grass. He loves laying in my weeds. Well, do that. Actually, when I was picking the weeds yesterday, he found a patch of it and used it as a pillow, so I had to weed around him until he moved because he was out there for like a good 2 hours. That weed patch was his pillow. But no, he didn't quite grasp that. I had to take him into another room so he'd stop ringing the bell. Let's see. Whoops. I scrolled too far. 1 second. Oh, I've definitely scrolled too far. It's going to keep just a moment. Wow, I missed a bunch of questions. There we go. Okay, next was Soleil said, what's the brush you use after you apply paint to blend it? So any brush really, but the brushes that I'm using tonight, this one is an Artist Loft. It's listed as Necessities, number 4. It's a generic from Michaels, just little stiff brush. They fall apart. Like this handle will, if I twist that at all, that's just going to pop right off. It's already doing it. So it's any other brush. The other brush that I'm using, this one here is Simply Simmons. This one is listed as a short filbert, and it doesn't tell me what kind other than that. But it's kind of a stiff, almost like a synthetic hog-haired brush. But anything, I like brushes that are more stiff. You could use a soft brush, play around. I could grab any one of these brushes that are on my easel right now and make them work just the same. Let's see. Sergi said, I'm surprised the weeds have survived Gibson's turbo tendencies. He's got a track of kicked up dirt at the circle he's been running. Yes, me too. Let's see. Mrs. Ray said, how are you good at multitasking? I can't paint and talk at the same time. Sometimes I can't. I even catch myself holding my breath while I paint because it's too much multitasking. I think it just takes time and I'm used to it. I mean, I've taught for, God, when did I start teaching? In 99, I think. And I would paint at the same time while teaching many times, not all the time, sometimes. So you get used to it. That's all I can think of. I'm not sure. I don't know if that would be the same for everybody, but for me, I think it was just, I've been doing it for so long that it just works. Buzz Art Tutorial said, do you ever find it hard to keep your hand out of the paint when going from acrylic to oils? I always forget it's not dry like acrylics and tend to leave an imprint of my palm. I'm pretty good about it now. When I first started with oils, that was a real problem, like a serious problem for me. Every once in a while I'll do it, but usually not. I mean, it's a constant reminder every time I look at the palette. This is a different setup than acrylic. So I think I have in my head too, really well to keep everything clean, like keep things clean and be careful. So when I get as soon as I get the oils out, that is going through my head because I do want to keep stuff clean and I don't want paint all over me. So yeah. But when I first started with oils, oh my gosh, it was such a mess. I made a huge mess. Nick said, it is my experience that a lawn will never be perfect. Believe me, I've tried. I'm okay with not perfect. I'm just not okay with 75% weeds. Like the amount of, my whole yard was almost green. And right now it shouldn't be. It should be all brown because of the grass being dormant. But it was almost all green because the weeds had completely taken over the, I mean, it was insane. It was really bad. Sergio said, oh, don't worry, you're not alone on the lack of sleep part. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. Okay, that makes me feel better. Melody said, do you use a varnish on your acrylic or oil paintings? On both, yes. On my acrylics, I use the, Liquitex High Gloss Varnish. And with oils, I use Gambar by Gamblin. Gamblin makes it. Gambar. And that one you can apply as soon as it's dry. The painting is dry to the touch. Nothing's wet. Like if you push it on, if you paint thick, I don't, so I don't have to worry about that. But if you like pushed on it with your finger, if it dents, you need to let it dry more. But that one you can put on right away. Whereas like a Winsor & Newton or any of the other ones, varnishes, you've got to wait like 6 months for the painting after it dries, an additional 6 months in order to be able to safely use that. Let's see. Ursi said, have you thought about having a horticulturist put indigenous plants from in and around your country to beautifully designed house structure. No, because I'm not, and I know a lot of people want everything to be native to like, must be North Texas native. And I'm in some groups on Facebook that are the users are like that, and that's fine. And I understand, you know, the benefit that there can be from that. So, you know, so you're supporting the local wildlife and stuff, but a lot of stuff that is not native also supports the wildlife. So I'm not personally in that boat where I think everything has to be native. I know what I want planted out there. I just haven't gotten that far, but I am also limited by my HOA. So with the HOA, I can't just go, okay, I'm going to make everything. Now this, if I could do it to where I could make everything super drought resistant, like I don't see a need for grass. I think are other alternatives that make more sense for the area. You're not allowed to do that with the HOA. You have to have grass in the front and the back. So I can't, you know, I am limited as far as that goes. I really like areas like Arizona does this a lot, where they do different types of gravel and then use native, you know, plants that are native to the area. So they are much less consuming when it comes to water, but that's not an option. So being that it's not, I'm not sticking to what's native. I'll be putting crepe myrtles, which are not native. They do well in this area. I just submitted for approval with the HOA for that one. So crepe myrtles are my plan, and then shrubs along the back wall. So hopefully they approve that before spring comes so I can start planting those. So this is not actually glazing. This is just me touching up now some of the highlights and blending it in with areas that I glazed. So like that area doesn't need to be white, but I need it light. So I'll do that. And then I'm going to take let's take some of the Van Dyke brown. Actually, I think it would be better. I have to wipe the Van Dyke brown off the brush a little bit. If I mix the brown with my indigo, I'm just going to have dark, dark black. And I want to have a little bit more of a bluish tint, I think, here. And then I'm going to go ahead and grab another brush and just lightly smudge it. And you've got to be careful with oils, like I was saying earlier. Don't overdo it. Just a little bit is enough. If you overdo it, you will lose the lights and the darks. You will lose any variation in color that you may have wanted. Let's see. Heidi said, that's a long name, something out of the blue. I'm not going to try to say that. I'm bad with names as it is. So that makes me feel so much better to hear that you wing it. As a less experienced artist, it feels overwhelming to learn how to create on my own, especially when following tutorials. Yeah, and then I think the tutorials are helpful. Just don't depend too much on them. Like, you've got to be willing to go ahead and try that on your own. Like, watch the tutorial and see how they did it so that you can then use some of those techniques on your own work. Don't limit yourself to forever having to follow tutorials. The goal is to eventually be doing your own. So, or it should be anyway. But yeah, you're just experimenting and playing. I mean, even now, I'm like, I don't know what area. I'm just jumping around like, oh, I see something here I can change, so I'm going to change that. Oh, I see something over here I can change, so I'm going to change that. And that's pretty much my thought process through the whole thing. Leroy said, Gibson immortalized in oil paint. Beautiful picture. I love it. Thank you. Kelly said, are you going to get into gardening? It seems like you have a green thumb. I've never had my own yard, but I've always loved like my indoor plants. I've got all my orchids, which badly need to be watered right now. Half of them I got to, and the other half I forgot. Now I'm looking at them going, you don't look so happy. But no, yeah, I will definitely, I don't know if I'd say gardening. I guess it depends on your definition of gardening. I will have a very pretty backyard with my shrubs and my trees and the lawn. Yeah, that's about it. I mean, I like plants. I really do like a lot of plants. So there will be a lot of plants out there, that's for sure. I like plants with lights in them. So that will be happening. But like gardening, like I know a lot of people, one of the groups I joined, apparently to them, gardening means growing your own fruits and vegetables. And that's like what the term gardening means. I didn't look at it that way. That group is not so helpful for me because I don't want, like, growing food is not my thing. Whoops, scrolled too far. 1 second. Whoops. Starving Artist Collective said, during a live stream, at your previous apartment, you mentioned you were painting gaming miniatures. Are you still doing these? You talked about making a video of painting them. I did. and I haven't finished them. I moved them. I don't even know where half, actually I think I know where they are right now. I need to do it again. I just haven't, I have so many projects around the house to do that, like, when I have time to paint, I need to work on actual painting or that. Yeah, I just haven't gotten to those yet. I haven't done much in the way of like things that would be considered hobbies. Well, other than playing Warcraft here on occasion. But that's about it as far as like hobby type things I've done. Everything else I feel like I'm constantly doing chores. Ursi said, are you going to sell some Lachri merchandise of this Greyhound you are painting? Yeah, I'll definitely have prints of this one eventually. Casey said, how many things have you found in Gibson's bed today? Actually, he's not been stealing too bad, but I've been careful to keep, he wants to play with wash rags and hand towels. That's like what he's obsessed with. So I found him running around the backyard with a hand towel, like tossing it around and then ripping it yesterday, I believe, day before. But he hasn't been taking my stuff. He seems to have backed off of doing that too much lately. Yeah, he's got the toy I tossed in his bed right now. That's it. Now, if he gets, I think the reason though is that I've been careful about keeping him out of like my closet. If he goes in my closet, he is leaving with something. It could be a sock. It could be, he's finding this eye mask that I don't even wear. I need to just throw it out. But he keeps finding that. So yeah, I take it back. He is still a klepto, but I've been getting really good at keeping doors closed in the rooms that he steals stuff from. Melissa said, Granddad always said, you can please some of the people some of the time, but you can't please all of the people all of the time. Absolutely. So true. Heather said, how about painting bluegrass? How about planting bluegrass? It's thicker and hardier. I don't know if we're allowed to change the grass that we have here. All the houses that are put in the entire neighborhood, through all the builders, it's all Bermuda. So I'm really not sure if that's something I would be able to do or not. I have to look in, like everything has to have the HOA approval. If I had my choice, I'd probably go with St. Augustine. That stuff, you can't hurt that once that takes off, but yeah. Ursi said, maybe put down native flowers. I don't know that we have much. I mean, bluebells or blue bonnets or whatever they call it, they will bloom for a short time, but other than that, I don't know that there's that much like pretty native things up here. Not that I would want anyway. I mean, it's Texas. It's like this area is kind of desert-like. Melody Ross said, that is good to know. I have heard Gambar was good for oils because they don't have to be completely dry, which they say takes 6 months. Yeah, absolutely. Mystic said, what would you say is your favorite medium to use? I would say my top favorite medium is pastels mixed with colored pencils. Curious to know what yours is. Yes, the painting looks amazing. Thank you. I would say probably if I could I would never want to only choose one because I like to work in lots of different mediums, but if I could only choose one, I would probably go with acrylics because I feel like with acrylics, I can do anything. There really is no limit to what style you want to paint with, and it's fast. It goes really quickly with acrylics versus like colored pencil. But I love all of the mediums, or all the ones I work with. So I'm not sure. I say it's my favorite, but it's not like that's more just being practical, I think. Like if I could forever only choose one, that's what it would be. I'm not sure that answers the question. Sarah Drew said, after mostly 2 years of ongoing art making, I did hit a sweet burnout point this month. Should I expect my diploma for being a true artist in the mail or a visit from the president? The diploma is probably on its way. Although I think the next step is procrastination, so the diploma probably will be there in like 2 years because that person's probably at the procrastination step. Sally said, I remember seeing a company that sends you a section of turf for indoor doggy potties, like $2 to $4, dogs living in high rise, etc. Anyway, might be a good substitute for you. God, no. That turf stuff is nasty. It looks kind of nice. First off, I have a thing. I hate fake plants. I hate fake flowers. Hate. I have a very serious, hate. Fake grass, right up there. I think it's gross. And what's worse, I did try a patch for indoors in my dogs because they're trained to go on potty pads, and I thought that stuff might work well. Found one that had great reviews. Dear God, the smell, it was a pain in the butt to clean. It was so hard to clean, and it still smelled bad. And dear God, I would never do that again. Now, I am sensitive to smells, and that does gross me out like a lot. There was no good, you can hose them down, but everybody I've ever known, it ended up like molding underneath. There's so many factors on trying to keep that, like you have to bleach it, there's just so much to even remotely keep it going well. No, dear God, no, that is not something, I can't express the odor when it didn't smell. Like you walk by it where it was sitting in its like plastic thing, you didn't smell it. But when I lifted it to clean, oh God, it was bad. And I mean, I was cleaning and changing that regularly. Yeah, no, do not recommend. Would never buy something like that again. And it kind of, I mean, that's a lot of plastic weight, like a lot of, for a whole yard, instead of just grass, which is natural, we're making plastic for it. No, not a fan. Let's see. Ursi says, love your orchids you showed in one of your videos you made showing your house. Yeah, I'll have to show more. They're all coming into bud. I actually it's the first time one of them has ever bloomed for me. I don't even know what those flowers look like. It was given to me, so I am excited to see what that comes out like. Spike just came up this week, so really excited about that. Casey Wood said, non-art related question. Do you like having longer hair like you do now more than the shorter hair you used to have? I need a cut bad. It's getting, hair is everywhere all the time. So, and anyone with long hair knows this, but I'm like, it amazes me how I find hair everywhere. I mean, on the couch, everywhere, wrapped around the vacuum cleaner, in a way I never used to, and I'm not really loving that at all. So, no, I'm definitely going to be cut, and I'm due for a cut badly. I'll probably go right below my shoulders. So not as short as I used to go, but definitely shorter than this. It's been driving me crazy, but the girl who cuts my hair normally, she works, although my husband's schedule just changed, so I'll be able to schedule a Saturday now. But, I have just not been able to get in to see her since, when did I go? Like March, so it's almost been a year since I had it cut. Like, I am so far overdue. It is really bad. But no, I mean, yeah, I think I like longer than what I had it, but not this long. I'm not enjoying this length. Joseph said, by the time you finish with all the things you need to do in your new house, you'll have to start repairing the broken things in your now old house. Yeah, I think you're right. Or it'll be time to move again. Mrs. Ray said, you should do a My Dog Reacts to His Portrait video. I showed my two-year-old human, LOL, a portrait of him, and his reaction was amazing. Wonder how a fur baby would react. Yeah, I've shown my dogs, they give no cares at all. I painted my Italian Greyhounds, and they're just like, what? Okay. Like, dogs don't really care. It's cute to pose a photo with them, with their painting. I do like to do that. But as far as like the dog's reaction, there is none. They're just like, all right. And then they walk off or go back to sleep, depending on what they were doing at the time. They're not very fun with that. Sally said, it is real grass, but I know it will be a minute before you see this. Oh, it is real grass. Okay, then that I don't know what it is. So this grass that I have is, I don't know if turf's the right word then. It's sod is what they put down. But it was apparently sod infested with weeds. Yes, it is indigo I'm using, Sergio. And it's too dark. I'm going to have to come back through with the lights, but I will probably do that with some zinc white so it's more translucent. I don't know that I'll need that tonight. I'm mostly working on kind of the burgundies and reds and orangey tones, and then a little bit with the indigo. When you're glazing, it's almost just like, oh, that's too much actually. I want more of a brown. Let's pull some of this, maybe a little bit of the orange. But it's almost, think of it as like staining the color. So it's mostly liquid, a little bit of paint. And then you can still see everything underneath. I'm just like staining it. And I'll still have to come through and add a bunch of details. This is just getting started on those colors. And actually, this up here is way too blue and I don't like it. So what I'll do, I could wait for it to dry, or I can just wipe some of that off. It's still wet. pull a bit off. There we go. And I'm using the Viva paper towels for that. Veronica said, hi, since you are sensitive to smell, what type of medium are you using for oil painting? This is liquid, and I love the smell. So while I say I'm sensitive to smell, I just mean I can smell everything, but I actually love the smell of oil painting, so it's not like a negative thing for me. And I don't have a problem with it. And also when I'm saying I'm sensitive to smell, I'm not like, smells give me headaches. Like my husband can't, like if he walks down a candle aisle, instant, like he's itchy and his head hurts and it just really gets him. With me, I can smell everything really strong, but it's not, like I'm not having a negative reaction to it for the most part. Like, I can't even think of anything that I've had. Oh no, actually the one thing I did have a negative reaction to was what was that stuff called? Lavender. It was supposed to be a natural alternative to using paint thinner, and natural does not mean non-toxic, by the way, but that stuff, my throat was like closing up, my lungs, I couldn't breathe. That stuff was bad, just like being in the room with it. So there are definitely certain things that I react really badly to, but no, these haven't bothered me at all, and I love the smell. So and this will just be a slow build up of adding bits of color here and there. And then when I get into the background, I'll probably pull some of those colors into his coat as well. I doubt I'll get to that. Yeah, I definitely won't be getting to that tonight on the live stream anyway. Ursi said, you need hybrid plants with flowers. Yeah, that's what I need. And it's funny because actually a lot of my orchids are hybrids. They're definitely a bit more hardy than your species varieties. I have one species, my Stewartiana orchid, and I get so excited when it blooms. It usually blooms like every other year and like every year like the other ones. But I get so excited because that one's so much harder to keep going than the hybrids are. Or to keep happy, I guess I should say. Load a bit more on there. Sergi said the blues that encase the highlights make Gibson look like he's made out of metal at this point. Yeah, oh, you're right. It does. Well, I will end up likely glazing a brownish tone over a lot of these too. But no, you're right. That's funny. So this is the glazing. It's not a one layer type thing. I'm going to add lots of layers to get to that end result that I want. Everything that I'm doing, I mean, everything's pretty much experimenting. Make a brush stroke. Do I like it? Great. Do more like that. If not, try something else. It's not something where I'm looking at it going, for sure, everything has to be indigo. If I do it and I don't like it, I'm just going to layer over it. No big deal. And yeah, there, I think I'll definitely be pulling more of the browns. I don't really like that there as much. And mixing right there, the blue with that tone of brown will really give me more of a blackish tone. So it's not such a cool blue. Let's just smudge that. I can actually smudge that into the background. It doesn't matter if some of that color gets back there because I'll be putting so much. Forgot my coffee. Oh my gosh, that's a lot of condensation that is dripping everywhere, including the laptop. We'll just dry that off. Oops, 1 second. Okay. So you can see I'm just kind of jumping around, picking a spot, deciding what I want. Apparently I wasn't going to finish that thought process. Yeah, and I could, like, I'm using indigo. I could have used cobalt blue. I could use anything and gotten a similar enough look. So don't feel like you have to use the same colors to get that. Like if you're painting a black dog, it has to be those colors. It absolutely does not. You want to figure, I mean, it really is more your values than anything, but don't feel like it has to be the exact same. And see, this is why I hyped up my contrast a bit and made my brights a bit brighter than they needed to be, my darks a bit darker, because as I add these layers on top, all of that is going to be neutralized a bit and toned down. If you have a question for me and I'm not answering it, you need to do the @Lachri fine art so it highlights in orange. Otherwise, I just don't see it. It's not me trying to ignore it. And if you can't get that to work, which I understand because I can't either, if you can't get it to work, just ask one of the moderators or somebody else and they can do it, write it out for you. I'm sure they love when I offer them to do extra work because, you know, they don't do enough already. See, in here, I can already see where when this dries, I'm going to want to get more magenta into it, but I can't really get the effect that I want yet until it dries. So sometimes I'll see something and know I'm going to do something specific later on. Sergio said, is there any chance we'll be seeing you accomplish a portrait in colored pencils in OMS ever again? Yeah, definitely. I don't have any specific plans, but definitely yes. Actually, even, well, this isn't a people portrait, but I was tempted to do this one in colored pencil too with that photo. But I hadn't done oil in so long and I'd had a lot of requests, so that is why we are going this way. More magenta in there. Heather said, speaking of taking a long time, I'm doing the graphite rose in an 11 by 14 and using many, many layers. It's coming out great, but wow on timing. Yeah, it takes a long time, but it's just so worth it. That's cool. Elaine says, I am trying to do art for a living, but I'm only just starting to try other mediums than graphite. Should I focus a bit on learning before I get on YouTube or social media? No, I would start all of that now because, I mean, right now you don't have a I'm assuming you don't have a following if you're just getting started with that. So this is the time to start learning because social media and YouTube, that's also an art there. I mean, you have to learn. So it is better for you now to start learning how to make videos, how to edit videos, how to do everything now before you get that, you know, to where you're better known. Learn everything all at once. So I would say start that now. And I always, especially with oils, I end up with like a bunch of brushes in my hands all at the same time. So I'm constantly digging through trying to figure out which one I was using. Now with him, I will most likely be pulling some definite reds and some definite purples in his coat too. He'll have a lot of deeper shades, but that will be after this layer dries. Bob's art tutorial said, what is your motivation for painting each day? Is it a stress reliever for financial gain, goals, etc.? I think that answer changed. Like, I mean, from how I started painting to what it turned into. When I first started painting, it was just like there's a drive, there's a need, and even that I still have, but this need to create. Like if I'm not painting, I'm not real happy. Like it feels wrong. There's definitely a sense of satisfaction that you get from creating something that you don't get any other way. I mean, music could be the same thing. You're creating that music, that act of creation. I think it just adds so much to your life and brought me a definite sense of peace. And that was something where if I'm not painting and I'm not creating, I lose that sense of peace. Like it's a noticeable, I'll start getting depressed, start having issues there. So painting for me was a necessity, whether it was for a career or not. But now that it's a career, even when I'm not in the mood to paint, I still have to. My motivation is I have bills to pay. Like I just bought a house. I have a lot of bills to pay. So there's no like, man, I'm not in the mood today. Like that doesn't happen. It can't happen. I don't have time for that to happen. So I guess the motivation sort of changed. But like I said, even if I was doing something else, back when I worked at the animal hospital, I still painted pretty much every day. Just because there was like that need, that drive to create. Starving Artist Collective said, with your sensitivity to certain smells, is there a perfume you can wear? I wear scented lotions, so perfumes don't really work for me. There's plenty I'm sure I could wear, but I prefer the scented lotions. It's a little bit more mild, and when I reapply it all day, I get to smell it fresh again. So I prefer that. Like Mango Body Butter from the Body Shop is the one that I normally wear. That or Strawberry. Those are like my two favorites. Oh, I guess not that, or Vanilla. From Bath and Body Works. So those I guess are perfumed scented lotions. So those are what I go with. I don't even, actually no, that's not true. I was gonna say I don't have any perfume, but I do have CK1 back from, when did I get that? 94, I think. 1994, it's old. And it smells just as good now. Like that stuff did not go, like some perfumes don't last. Oh no, that one still smells good, but it doesn't work with my lotion, so I never wear it. I don't even know where it is right now. Let's see. Creative Girl said, where was this? Hello. That is beautiful. Love when you do oil paintings. Thank you. Elaine said, I'm the same. I have to create something. Yeah, and I didn't realize that was happening for a while there. I remember going through a phase because I was doing so much with my band at the time, and I just wasn't painting that much. And I started just feeling meh, like not super depressed, but I didn't feel right. And it clicked, like I have not painted. Like I don't even remember when the last time I painted. When I painted, instant cure. Like, oh, I'm fixed, I'm better now. Like I just start feeling wrong. Let's see. Creative Girl said, long time no see, Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you too. Hope you're getting lots of painting done. Sergi said, I'm surprised how stiff Gibson is while sleeping. Yeah, he's not moving too much. He's actually really good. Like, I mean, Greyhounds sleep a lot, but it's nice. He's actually allowed to nap with me, where my Italian Greyhounds don't hold still long enough. Like they move constantly. So they have to sleep in another room. They keep me awake. But when he's out, he is out. I was surprised how well he slept when I was working on pulling weeds yesterday, because I'm getting up, moving the chair. I mean, nothing fazed him. He wasn't lifting his head. Every once in a while, he might open his eye, and then he's like, yeah, back out. I mean, that dog did not move. So that was surprising. I thought he'd be like up wandering around more. Nope. Thanks, Xerxes. Okay. So here we're going to start getting a little bit of a bluish tint. Just a little. And I'll come back through with highlights again. Mrs. Ray said, what is your opinion on Pixabay? I feel like I could paint so much from there, but for some reason I feel wrong when I try to put a painting of them up for sale. Am I just in my head? Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, if you have the royalty, if you have rights to do it, paint, sell it. What I like to do, especially when I do things from Pixabay, now sometimes I will copy things more exact, but for the most part, when I use a reference photo that I know a lot of other artists are also using, I like to try to change it, make yours different. Like with this one, for those of you on Patreon, I told you I'm tired. My brain is not working. On Patreon, this reference photo you guys have. And while I gave you guys permission, obviously, to use it in your own work, but do your background different. Do something different. Don't make yours look just like mine, because if we all are selling prints of the same thing, none of us are, like, why would we do that? Make yours different. And I do the same thing with Pixabay whenever possible, or even wildlife reference photos. Take those photos and try to improve on it. Make something a little different. Like I did the tiger. I've got the, I don't think you can see it in here, but I've got a tiger over there that I got from wildlife reference photo. I added fireflies. It's not a huge change, but it made mine different. So, try to, when you're using a photo that other artists are also using, that's going to happen. I mean, it's inevitable. We can't get photos of everything we want, but what can you do to yours to make it unique? And it might be the background, it might be different elements, it might be the type of brushstroke you're doing. What can you do to make yours different is what I try to think when I'm using God, I can't talk. The same photo as everybody else. Creative Girl said, yes, I was sick not too long ago. I couldn't paint for weeks and I felt like I was going crazy. I need to paint. See, I didn't know it's not just me. Now, see, what I was curious, I was thinking about this today when I was out there pulling weeds again, because I was not going to weed today. My arms are killing me. Seriously, best workout ever. But I wasn't going to, and I was like, I have to. I just can't. I'm like super obsessed. Do any of you guys who are artists, because I think we do have a tendency to be obsessive over certain things. I mean, especially if we do detail work, you have to be. How many of you guys are, does anyone else do that, or is that just me? I'm hoping I'm not the only one. I might just be crazy about weeds. Like, that should not be enjoyable, yet it was. Yeah, I was super torn between being irritated there were weeds at all right now, and this is kind of fun. I mean, I got a weeding tool to dig them up, so it made it a lot easier. When I originally was just trying to pull them out of the ground, that wasn't so much fun. Was not enjoying that. See, I'm just smudging this. Not a lot, just a few brush strokes. Soften it out, drop my brush. Sergio said, have you got a fireplace above which to hang this painting? I do not. We did not get a fireplace in this model. You could get it, but it was an extra $5,000. I think it was $5,000 or $550, something like that. And it's in a weird location, and so your TV was nearly on the ceiling. Like, it was very, not that we watch a lot of TV, but you're still going to put one there. Like, if my parents come over, they'll put on movies, whatever. It was a weird design. So I kind of wish we had a fireplace, but I didn't want the one that came in this design. But I love the rest of this design or layout of the house. So no, we do not have one. I'm not. This will definitely hang somewhere. It probably will end up in my office. Maybe in the living room. I don't know. I have not decided. I have lots of wall space, hallways, all kinds of stuff. Heather said, I too obsess on things. Okay, good. I don't know why I think that's good. It makes me feel not alone that I'm crazy, I guess. Elaine said, I'm obsessive and a perfectionist. Amy said, I'm a flower farmer and I enjoy getting all my weeds. Okay, good. So it's not a totally crazy thing, or we're all crazy. That could be the case too. I think we kind of established that last week with the murder shows that we all watch. Okay, let's see. So my reference photo, because of the way the sun was hitting him, makes him look more like he's a seal dog or brown. He doesn't look like he's black, but he is black. And so I need to make sure that I'm pulling make sure that I can capture that look, that people don't walk in and go, oh, who's the brown dog? Like, I want it to still look like the black dog, but still keep a lot of these highlights. So I'll end up coming back through with cooler tones on quite a bit of this later on. Creative Girl said, how long did you let it dry before you started the glazing process? Did you use Zinc White or lead white for the white highlight? The white highlight, so far I have not used my Zinc White. I've been using titanium white, and with liquid, it would have just needed to dry overnight. Now, I've not painted on this since Friday, but it didn't need to set that long. It's just that I haven't worked with it. But overnight is all I need before I can start glazing, because all of my layers are very, very thin, and the liquid being a fast drying medium, that's all it takes. Ian said, hello from Denmark. I slept 14 hours the other day. I'm so tired at this time of year. Oh, you guys get even less sun up there, don't you? I don't think I could handle it. Which is funny, because I actually like the dark. I like nighttime, but I like when it's late. I don't know. That's a contradiction. I'm not going to try to figure myself out. That seems like a pointless endeavor. I have a feeling I'm going to be sleeping a lot longer. No, the people are coming to fix the cabinets. I'm not sleeping that long tomorrow. Tomorrow will be another sleep-deprived day. I could always nap tomorrow, though. Today, I was waiting for, because you guys care, I ordered a freezer for the garage, a chest freezer for Gibson's raw, because I'm going to be switching him to a raw diet. Right now, he's just eating kibble. But we'll be switching him to raw, but I don't have storage space in my kitchen freezer, so we ordered that. That just came today, but I was waiting all day, like 6 in the morning. I'm waking up checking, which for me would be like 2 in the morning for a normal person, I guess. But I've been waiting all day for that thing to arrive, and it didn't get here until 7. So I didn't get a nap, and I was awake constantly this morning checking to see if they were here yet, because I didn't want to miss the delivery. It took forever for them to get it here. But we're one step closer to Gibson having a better diet. Let's see. Bob's Art Tutorial said, what brand of oil paint do you prefer? So right now I'm using the Winsor & Newton, where is it? The Winsor & Newton Artist Colors. These are the ones that most of my paint are, but I have to say, I've got quite a few of the Grumbacher paints. I like them better. I just haven't replaced all of my Winsor & Newton. The reason that I use Winsor & Newton is that they're super, you can get them at Michael's, Hobby Lobby, you can walk into any store and get them. But the more, the texture, the consistency of the Grumbacher, I definitely do find myself liking a bit more. I believe the Grumbacher usually cost a bit more too, though. But you can get it from, like, oil paints get very, very, very expensive depending on the brand. The Winsor & Newton Artist Color worked fine for me. I started with the Winton Color, and I still have some of them. That's this one here. Or no, that one's an Artist Color. I can't read. No, that one's Artist too. Maybe I don't have that many of the Winton Color. The Winton Color is like the more, one lower grade essentially with Winsor & Newton. They're still light fast. I mean, what's the colors? You've got to check that anyway. But it's not a light fast issue. It's like the consistency. I have to thin it a lot more with my liquid in order to make it work right. It's like hard as a rock. So that the Winsor & Newton Artist Color, those ones are a fairly soft, like it's just a nice consistency, but the Grumbacher is amazing. That one I'm really liking. There was another one, I have samples somewhere that I really liked that I'd be interested in getting more of. Let's see. So while I say I'm using mostly Winsor & Newton, it's not because they're the best. It's because I've just had them for so many years, and oil paint lasts forever. So while they're expensive to buy, they do generally last a very long time, which is good. A very little bit of paint goes a really long ways. Veronica said, can I get a I can't talk. Well, I can read it, can't say it. Surreal, blue. Why can't I say it? I mean, I don't think that's a lack of sleep. I'm not sure I've ever said that word out loud. Cerulean. I can't, whatever, blue. I'm gonna start making a fool of myself. No, I'm not. Color by mixing colors. Do I need to buy it separately? Thank you. I don't even have that blue. I don't think. Oh, let me find out. I need to look at it. And I don't know. Like, I'm not a color mixing book. So like I don't know off the top of my head, mix this and that's how you get that. I don't know. See, I'm one who worries far more about, God, I've got a lot of Grumbacher in here now, far more about values than color itself. So you're going to get close. And as far as what you would mix it with, it would depend on what you have. What other blues you have. I don't know that I have one. So I don't even think I own it. And there went a palette knife. Windsor Blue Green shade. No, I'm pretty sure I do not own that color. In which case, I would say it's not necessary. But, I mean, I'm sure I painted a color that's similar. I can't tell you what colors. Like I said, I'm not a mixing guide. I am to start mixing paint and go, okay, that looks like it needs more green to it. Add more green. That's the extent of my thought process. I don't know. I am not helpful there. There may be something online you can find with that, but like I said, I don't focus so much on color as I do values, so it's not something I ever really think that hard on. Lynn said, hello, awesome painting, thank you. Listening to you talk about weeding is funny, considering we are negative 40 Celsius here in Alberta, Canada. Polar vortex apparently. Ouch. Yeah, that doesn't sound fun at all. Creative Girl said, I love gambling, but it's very pricey. Does liquid have a bad smell? I mean, it smells like oil paint. It's no worse than the rest of my oils, if that helps. I mean, I just about almost stuck my nose in my palette to smell it, which is stupid. I can smell it from here. It all kind of smells very similar to me, that versus my oils. It's not a strong smell. It's not, I mean, it smells like oil paint to me. Like normal oil paints, if that's a thing. Okay, back to work. What was I working on? What area do I want to? Let's throw in some more of the blues in here. Yeah, Sally says I mix blue-green, or phthalo blue green shade with titanium white and call it cursorily. I can't say it. Oh my gosh, that's bad. Yeah, so I must be doing pretty much the same. Because with me, for years, the only blue paints that I actually purchased were phthalo blue and ultramarine blue. I can mix one direction or another, whatever I need from there. Now I do have more blues. I'm more spoiled now because I've collected so many over the years. But initially, phthalo blue, ultramarine, that is all I purchased. So, and I never felt like I couldn't mix the color blue I wanted. Now I can't tell you mix this color with it to get it. I don't have it in front of me, but... Veronica said, it's the bright blue type of blue color that we see in swimming pools or sky. Yeah, I'm just mixing it with something then that I have, because I don't even think I have it with acrylics. I've always really, like, when I just got my basic colors, it's just phthalo blue or ultramarine and whatever I needed to mix from there. So I'm going to say the answer is yes, you can mix it, but I can't tell you with what. Maybe somebody else has an answer to that. And it's funny because you'll talk to somebody who will have a very different opinion on color than I do and think that everything, every little shade, everything being exact shade, that's what matters so much. I don't think it does. I think the values matter. So color's not something that I super worry that much on. It's not like the point of my work isn't like it has to be this exact red. Don't think the average person's going to notice the difference. So I don't, it's never been a focus of mine. Pamela said, I would like to know how long did it take you to feel comfortable in front of the camera? Years. Oh my gosh, years. If you look at my old videos, oh my God. And the funny thing is, it wasn't that I felt uncomfortable in front of the camera. I acted uncomfortable, and I'm not sure why that is. Like there was a very stiff stick stuck in a very uncomfortable location level of uncomfortable. Like it's uncomfortable for me now to watch those old videos. I left them up because they're hilarious. But it took years for me to be used to, I'd say a couple years, before I felt that I could just be my normal self. I mean, it was so much so that I was asking friends, I'm like, is this how I am in person? And I remember one of my friends going, oh God, no. I guess I was like, oh, so I know how you feel about my video, how I act on video. But I just couldn't act normal for some reason. Like I don't know if you guys have seen that Friends episode where they're taking photos and Chandler can't, I think it was wedding photos or something, that Chandler couldn't take a good photo without making like this horrible face. That was me on camera. You put that camera on me and I was suddenly like, I don't know. And it wasn't that I was afraid of it or anything, but it felt like like watching it, it looks like I was. they were painful to watch, or are painful to watch. They're still up. But no, it took me a couple years, and I don't think it takes everyone that long, but I'm not sure what made the difference. I guess when I started realizing, no, what really made the difference was when I started making more videos. So initially I was doing 2 videos a week. Well, first it was just the one a week. Then I added the second one for the critique. Then I added a vlog. Once I started adding more a week and doing it more, that's when I really started noticing a difference and realizing I was actually talking to you guys. I wasn't talking to a camera, I'm talking to you guys. And that, like, having that click in my head really helped. Elaine said cerulean. Let's see if I can remember that. Cerulean. I'm not going to remember that. I'm so bad with these things. Thank you, though. Creative Girl said, okay, good, because I got some medium from Winsor & Newton, and I felt like I wanted to pass out. I use Galc D, I'm not saying that right either, gel, and I love it. Yeah, I think that's what I've used with Smart Art, and that didn't bug me. But yeah, some of those smells, there was another one, anything turpentine or terpenoid. And it's like, it's natural and odor-free or whatever. No, it is not. I don't know what those people are used to smelling, but that is not it. Like, it was horrible. Terpenoid natural was one. Oh dear God, was that bad. It was so bad I had to not allow students to use it in my classroom, and they could not bring supplies that they ever washed a brush in because their brushes would permanently smell. I mean, it was bad, an instant headache, so bad. So yeah, no, this is not like that. This just smells like the rest of my oil paint to me. I don't really notice a big difference. Sarah said, sometimes I change the colors in a painting on purpose just because I want to. Absolutely, me too. Okay. See, and I think I'm going to definitely pull more purple tones than the bluish tone that I have in there. I'm just going to play with it until I like it. I mean, you never hit a limit where you just can't get more layers, that's for sure. And the more layers you do, the better it looks because the way the light refracts through each of these layers, and having a lot where it's thinned out like this with the liquid, it looks really pretty in person with the way and I say the way the light bounces around, you're not seeing it bounce around, but the paint just has so much more depth the more layers you get. Starving Artist Collective said, what are your least used favorite colors? Or least used or favorite? I don't think I have any. I mean, technically, I'm not a huge fan of some of the... No, and that's not true, because I do like them. No, I don't think I can say that I have any. No, I do. Yellows. But then there's a time and a place for yellow. But I definitely am not a fan of, like... I have had this tube, this 6.75 ounce US fluid ounces, whatever, or this tube of paint I have had probably, God, 20 years. I don't know. I've had it it was on clearance when I bought it. And I'm like, oh, I'm never going to use all this. I've never used it hardly any. Actually, this one's more of a, it's funny. The color there is not what it really is. This looks yellow. It's more of an orangey color. I almost never use that. But yellows, I would say, are probably some of my least used. I don't know if I want to say least favorite. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of yellow, but I would say those are the ones I use the least. Creative Girl said, yes, it feels crazy to just be talking to the camera in a room by yourself. Exactly. I don't know what people are smiling over there or smelling over there. I think they've been around it too long. I think that's probably the case. Some of those, I mean, oh my God, they just knock you over with the smell. And oil paint, like, and I understand where I've had people go, wasn't interested in oil because it smells so bad. And I'm like, I think it smells amazing. Well, it smells bad when you're using terpenoid and turpentine and some of these other things that, yeah, it can certainly smell terrible. Like, to the point I would not want to I couldn't stand to be around it. If that was my only option, I just wouldn't oil paint. More coffee. Okay. What area do I want to work on? I need to get some highlights in here. Mercy said Winsor & Newton turpentine have some nice color, nice odors. Yeah, no, they do no. Girl Upcycle Studio said, I get into the zone when I'm painting on a live and I have to remind myself to talk. Yeah, I keep stopping. I'm like, okay, awkward silence. That doesn't work in a live stream. Although I will inevitably have someone complain I talk too much in the live stream. I'm thinking, do you not it's a live stream. It's not really a tutorial. It's just me working on my current project while chatting with you guys. I definitely need to get some Dioxazine purple or something like that out. Angela Clark said, in your question, oh yeah, if somebody is trying to ask a question, it has to be at Lachri Fine Art where it highlights in orange. If it doesn't highlight in orange, I won't see your question. If you can't get that to work, I can't either. Ask one of the moderators or someone and they can post your question for you. So I'll see it. It's not that I'm trying to ignore you or like trying to stick to some harsh rule. I just don't see it. Heather said, I do not oil paint because I haven't found supplies that I do not react to one way or another. Oh, that sucks. Yeah, but luckily it's not like oil painting's the only way to go. You've got acrylics, you've got color, but like there's so many other mediums we can use instead. So I think that's pretty cool. Casey said, is there an animal that you haven't painted that you really want to? Not that I can think of off the top of my head. I mean, I'm sure there's plenty. I just can't think of anything specific. I can't think of anything. That makes it a not very interesting answer, doesn't it? Trying to think, is there anything? I mean, I guess if I could think of it, I would have already painted it. I don't know. I really can't. Yeah. I can't think of anything right now. PZ Cherokee said, how do you talk so quickly even when you're tired? Do you drink plenty of coffee? I am drinking coffee tonight, but I talk fast whether I've had caffeine or not. That makes no difference. It's just how I talk. It's not something I make any effort to do. And it's funny because I had a really hard time. So I've been sick most of my life. I've had a lot of health problems because I have celiac disease, but we didn't know that. So I was just always sick. And I didn't find out about the celiac until like 15, 16 years ago. So the first part of my life, just sick a lot. And I would go and tell the doctors between that, and then I also have fibromyalgia and ankylosing spondylitis. We didn't know that. The doctor, when I would tell them, like, you don't understand how tired I am. Like, I'm having a hard time functioning. I'm so tired. And they would never take me serious because I talk fast. Those two things aren't related. I don't talk fast because I have energy. I never have energy. I talk fast because my brain is moving too fast. It's usually several steps ahead of me. That can get you into trouble. But yeah, so that was always a real challenge and really frustrating when doctors would not take me seriously or help me figure out why I was so tired. I mean, now it makes sense. Now I know why. But back then, God, that used to frustrate me to not be, they would just be so dismissive. I mean, I'm sure everyone has dealt with that, that happens. But that was my big problem, was me talking fast. They just assumed I was fine. Let's see. Whoops. Anne said a koala. I've painted a koala in Inktense at least once. Maybe only once. But I did that a few years back. Ursi said, have you tried any new teas? No, I have not. Nothing new lately. I've been hooked on my blueberry stash. Art Lady said, do you charge differently for pictures in different mediums, or is it by time? Absolutely different mediums because of time. I charge more for colored pencils because it takes me so much longer to complete than, let's say, an acrylic painting or an oil painting, which is funny because a lot of people assume oil painting is worth more. It's not. I can do it a lot faster. So it's, do not update another time. I need this. Dang it, computer. Go. So what was that? What are we talking about? I don't even remember what I was rambling about. Yeah, so it in part is by time, but even then it's by square inch based on each medium. Each medium has a different set. Pamela said, "Isn't that when you can't have gluten?" Yeah, that's what celiac is. And not because it's a bit of a challenge though, because so many people now went on a gluten-free diet thinking that meant healthy. If you can have gluten, you can have gluten. Like, there's no reason to cut it. It's not really gonna, I mean, whatever. But the problem is now, well, it's a good and a bad. The good is all kinds of restaurants have gluten-free menus. The bad is they assume that you're just doing it for diet, like, oh, it's fine. It's no big deal if there's cross-contamination. But if there's cross-contamination for me, I'm going to be sick for about 2 weeks. Like, I will want to die for about 2 weeks. So it's not like, oh, I just won't feel good tonight. It's a much bigger deal. So it's a bit of a challenge because so many people now are on the diet, the gluten-free craze, and just because, and it has nothing to do with their body actually needing that. I mean, if it makes you feel better, great. But it is a bit of a thing. Like, you have a lot. My sister she was a waitress, and she would tell me it was always like they usually wouldn't take people seriously either, because people would come into the restaurant, insist everything be gluten-free, and make a big deal out of it. And at the end of the meal, order cake, and they'd be like, "Well, that's not gluten-free." "Oh, it's okay. I can cheat a little." What? No, that's not how it works. But it makes those of us who will actually get extremely ill, they don't always take us as seriously or as careful. So yeah, that's a little bit of a challenge. Do I prefer acrylics or oils? I was just curious. Acrylics. I mean, I love oils. I wouldn't want to give up oils, but acrylics are a much faster medium, and I can get the exact same look with acrylics that I can with oils because of the way that I layer and glaze, and use the airbrush for, well, everything. So I'm able, like, I can keep my acrylics wet just as long as, however long I need to by misting water with an airbrush, so I can get the same look. So I like them both, but if I could only choose one, it would be acrylics. Sally said, "Need more coffee." Where was I? Creative Girl said, "How are you feeling now? I think Lady Gaga has the same condition." Tired still. I still deal with the fatigue. I'm scratching my thing. Still deal with the fatigue a lot, but like the pain that I was dealing with, the fiber. Well, lately I'm getting better because I'm back to being on a good diet, but I wasn't for like the last 2 months until last week, the week before, I forget. I started eating healthy again. But the fatigue is kind of always a thing that is very hard for me to deal with. But the rest of it, the pain, all of that is mostly under control. Like, my back right now hurts because of pulling all the weeds, so I'm really uncomfortable there. But normally I feel pretty good. It's really just the fatigue. And now, like with the celiac disease, that was an instant fix. As long as I don't eat gluten, there are no symptoms. So that one's pretty easy. As far as that goes, it's the fibromyalgia that is the pain. The fibromyalgia and the ankylosing spondylitis are the pain, like, literally now. The fibro's not bad as long as I keep my diet under control, though. Veronica said, "I just want to paint 2 frogs holding hands when I'll get better, that is. Silly as it sounds. I got inspired by watching funny frog pics on Pinterest." That is cute, though. Emma said, what would be your biggest tip for a beginner painting who can't layer well? Well, don't worry. What do you mean by can't layer well? Like, I don't really understand what you mean by that. A layer is just, I put down paint, it dried, and then I put paint over it. It's not like I'm good or I'm bad at it. It's just, I did it. So it's probably the biggest advice I would give you is to slow down. Stop trying to finish your painting so soon. Work on it. Let it dry, step away from it, come back the next day and work on it more. When you think you're finished, I want you to spend 3 times longer on it. That would probably be my biggest tip. The majority of people that bring their paintings that they're not happy with to me, they show them to me and they're not happy, it's because they're not finished yet. They're only about a quarter of the way through. So my biggest tip would be keep painting. A lot of people want to pretend it's a paint by number and look, I put color's there, it's done. Well, no, look at this. I'm painting myself. I'm nowhere near done. I've got tons left to go. You've got to spend more time on it. So I think that would be my biggest tip. When you think you're done, spend a minimum 3 times longer. It will make all the difference in the world in your work to force yourself to keep working on something. Upcycled said, how did they finally figure out what was wrong with you? I'm so sorry you've been so sick. I figured out most of it. The celiac disease I had somebody else mention, and they just never tested me for it. So somebody else mentioned it, and turned out that is what fixed that problem. And my autoimmune disorder went away. Like, I mean, I would break out, this is gross, but I would break out in canker sores. I always had canker sores inside my mouth, always. And by the time one would start to heal, I'd have 3 more in another area. It was nonstop. That was since I was a baby. When I went gluten-free, completely, like I never get them at all anymore. Like that was one of the biggest things. That's how I always know when I've accidentally had gluten. I'll break out in at least one canker. So they heal pretty fast now. But that's like a big sign. That was the biggest, that was huge. But my symptoms somebody knew someone who had celiac, and so she had suggested it, and turns out that was it. And then ankylosing spondylitis my mom has, so I followed her symptoms. You know, you get started. I was about 18, 19 when I started, actually younger when the arthritis started in my wrist, but my back started when I was, I want to say 19, 20, 21, right around there. So yeah, that's just what they've had. And then the fibro, I went to a doctor because I wanted to rule out that there wasn't something else more majorly wrong, because I was having, the pain was so severe. So he went and they ran all the tests to make sure it wasn't anything else. And then they ran the tests to confirm, did all the stuff. They sent you to a rheumatologist, I believe, to get the diagnosis for that. But that took years. I mean, it was so long. I finally gave up. I just given up on going to the doctors at all because I couldn't they kept giving me medication, and a lot of those medications are very addictive. Not psychologically, but physically. I went through withdrawals. I'm like, for somebody who has never done drugs recreationally, I've gone through withdrawals way too many times. And so I was like, nope, I'm done with this. And so I pretty much sworn off just because it felt like they were making me worse. So when I started, the pain became so severe though, I was afraid something more major might be wrong. So I started going again, and I found a doctor who did the testing and took out everything more serious. So that was helpful. I mean, not that I took any medication or anything for it. I just wanted to make sure there was nothing more serious wrong that did need medication. I've never taken anything for fibromyalgia. I just control it with diet. Let's see. Ursi said, have you thought about running out to grab Celestial Seasonings raspberry tea? Great iced tea. I love it. Not lately. I don't go to the store usually. My husband goes, so I just keep forgetting to ask him to get me some. Emma said, I meant make it look realistic with lighting and texture. Sorry, I worded it wrong. Oh, so the layers. You're having a hard time getting lighting and texture there. And my answer is the same. Spend 3 times longer. I mean, the lighting, I think, comes with time. There are books. There's a book by, is it James Gurney, I believe? Somebody will know the name. Whatever. He's got good tips on lighting. I think that's a really good book to get. It's one of very few art books I have that I super recommend. I don't keep most books because I don't like just space and all that. I like stuff that's digital. That's one I have a hard copy of. So that's a really good one. Light and color, is that what that one is? But experience is going to do a lot of it, but spend more time. Get a good reference photo and pay attention to the values in that reference photo. Just slow down. Let's see. Creative Girl said, does exercise help? Because I know for me, I started having more health issues because I was sitting around and painting all day. So it helps my back. The more I move, the better my back is. The more I move, the more angry my fibromyalgia is. Exercise actually makes me feel worse, except for my back. My back will start to feel better. Depending on that, walking makes my back feel better. But if I lay down, oh my gosh, if I'm too still, my back is crazy bad. So, or if I look down, like that's what right now my back's pretty stiff from looking down while weeding. That's a real problem for me. It's one of the reasons, like even when I work with colored pencil, I have to be upright at an easel because if I look down, it locks up and it's not good. But like work out, go to the gym, lift weights, go like super active, it drains me to a ridiculous point where I feel like I've been sedated, I can't move. So as far as that goes, it never has made me feel better. I mean, you have to do it anyway, but it sure does not make me feel better. Elaine said, curiosity question, do you think as an art business that teaching other artists is a better road than selling originals, or is it more dependent on the artist and what they love more? I think in part, yes. I think you need to do what you're passionate about. I love teaching. I love helping other artists. I love helping people who are essentially me when I started out because I didn't have anyone to help me. I didn't know where to look for answers. And so I love being able to help others in that stage. But the thing with teaching that's so nice is it's a more, at least for me in the way that I've set up my business, it's a more consistent way to go than painting. Like if I don't sell a painting one month, it doesn't affect me. I mean, it's fine. I've got a solid income from teaching. So for me, it works out really well. But again, I do think you need to want to teach in order to do it well. But I definitely, because when I started, I wasn't, I mean, okay, I've been teaching almost from the beginning, but I mostly was focused on selling the work in the beginning. And it was so inconsistent. Some months would be amazing and I'd sell a ton, and then some months I wouldn't have enough to pay bills. So you had to balance, okay, I have to save most of this money so I can pay bills on this month. And that was very hard. Whereas with teaching, it's a bit more a lot more consistent, and it's easier to manage without that stress of trying to get those sales. Oops, I'm painting my easel here. Casey said, hey guys, just wanted to make sure that my info is correct. Can you use the same piece of transfer more than once? Absolutely. Over and over and over. Gonna have some transfer paper I've had for years. Many years. Let's see. Out of the Blue said, do you have recommendations for teaching and resources for learning, improving drawing, or techniques, sorry, I can't read. For techniques and resources for learning, improving drawing, I'm looking at online subscription for a new Master's Academy, but it's pretty expensive. I mean, of course, you've got my Patreon. That is just, my nose is itching, sorry. It's me walking you through or explaining what I'm doing, giving tips and such. But no, I don't have anything specific that I'm like, these are the resources you need. You're going to connect with different teachers. You want to find a teacher that makes sense to you and that you can learn from. And paint on your own. You need to pick up the brush and just start. Don't limit yourself by, I need to find the best teacher. I mean, it's good to obviously find teachers. I teach. I think it's a good idea. But also, get out, pick up the brush or the pencil, just get started. That is going to make a bigger difference than anything. But no, I don't have any specific, I mean, obviously I'm going to recommend myself, but I don't have anything specific. I guess it depends on what you're looking for. But even then, I'm not really sure. If you want sorry, I'm itching, but I'm trying to make sure that I don't have paint on my fingers so that I don't end up with oil paint all over the tip of my nose. But if you want, I would go over to either our MeWe group or our Facebook group and ask over there what classes or resources people have enjoyed, so you can get some actual advice from artists who have taken those. I think would be helpful. Ursi said, have your husband grab you a box of Celestial Seasonings brand raspberry tea. Refreshing. Yeah, I will definitely have to do that, especially before summer when I start making iced tea all the time again. Lately I haven't. This is like insane. The humidity. We have storms coming. The humidity is more. That is why this is happening. Like, it is really making a mess over here. Okay. Oops, 1 second. Nope, don't need to answer that right now. Okay. So now right now, what I'm doing, this isn't actually glazing. I'm just going over with some white highlights. And like going back to the question that we had earlier about knowing what you're doing, I'm just looking at my photo going, oh, this needs this, so let's add that. This needs a highlight, so let's add the highlight. It's not like okay, highlights at this stage. It's just, that's what I noticed, and so that's what I'm going to work on. There's definitely no right or wrong way to do that. Like what order to do things in or anything like that. And so as I add this white, it's slightly mixing in with a glazed color because that paint is still wet. So it gives me a nice soft look there. Elaine said, I'm certainly glad you teach because you've helped me get back into art and I hope to make it a living. That's awesome. Yay. I'm glad. I love hearing that. See, and that makes me want to keep teaching. Creative Girl said, have you ever done a Kickstarter? My band did at one point. It was an absolute failure because they didn't follow through with anything, or like they didn't really put any work into it. But no, for art, I really don't see a benefit to doing it. I'm not a fan of Kickstarter. I've been ripped off $400 worth on Kickstarter. And it wasn't even Kickstarter though. That was the thing. There were some earbuds, quick story, some earbuds a while back. And this guy apparently was a known scammer. He's done this before on several other things. But he's a rich guy and nobody can touch him apparently. He claimed he was making these really good earbuds. They were $200 a piece. Me and my husband were like, oh, we'll do that for Christmas. That's like a good Christmas gift for us. So he pre-ordered. His was not on Kickstarter. Kickstarter was done. This was just a pre-order off Kickstarter, straight off their website. But they dragged it out for so long. They made sure they held it out just long enough that banks would no longer refund the money. for not getting the item. And he kept making up excuse after excuse after excuse. And people, like, I mean, we believed him. That, well, my husband did. I was like, this is sounding fishy. But he's like, no, it's coming, it's coming. He said you can get a refund at any time. Well, then maybe we should do that. But anyway, yeah, that one was a huge scam. And everyone that ordered on Kickstarter was also completely screwed. But with us, we weren't Kickstarter. We were pre-order. So we should have been covered. And our bank was like, nope, it's been too long. So I was not pleased. That was $400. Just gone. So no, I would never, ever, ever support anybody or anything on Kickstarter after that experience, because it wasn't just, like I said, ours wasn't Kickstarter, but everyone who signed up on Kickstarter completely out that money too. And that, I guess, is fairly common on Kickstarter, and I don't trust it. So until I can get the product within the amount of time, my bank will still refund me if you flake. Not doing it. But as far as an artist, I don't think what would you be Kickstarting for? I mean, is there, what rewards are you giving people? Because I had a friend tell me this is before Patreon. Oh, you should do a Kickstarter. For what? Like, the way Kickstarter works, you're doing a single project. I don't know how to translate that into Kickstarter for an artist. I mean, it makes sense for musicians because, Kickstart your CD, they get the CD once it's done. Like, that makes sense to me. But for art, I'm really not sure how you would make that work well. Because the thing with Kickstarter, you have to already have a following. For it to work, you've either got to get it in the news, you've got to get it in front of people. Just telling your friends and family isn't going to make you any money. Not enough to make it worth it. You've got to have a way to get it. You have to be doing something so interesting that somebody in the news wants to pick it up and tell the story. That somebody, like, maybe you're doing a Kickstarter to open up an art thing for kids somewhere that, like, maybe low-income kids. That's something I've always wanted to do for low-income kids that couldn't otherwise take art classes. And that's what you wanted to do. Kickstarter would be perfect for that. And that may be something you can get the news to pick up on, people to contribute to, so that you could get that project started. But as far as, like, just as an artist, you want to make a living as an artist, Kickstarter's that's not what that's really for. Let's see. Oh my gosh, we've got Ursi still on the Celestial Seasoning kick. I think he's obsessed with some tea. Pulling out a few, oops, that's a bit too much paint there. Getting a little crazy. Let's just soften that. So I'm getting the hint of fur, but you don't want to overdo it. This fur is very, very short. So you've got a few little brush strokes. You want to create the texture without, like, these heavy brush strokes. Creative Girl said, wow, that's crazy. I don't blame you. Thanks. I saw someone doing a art book and tarot cards. See, that might work, but even then, unless they already have a following, nobody is going to not enough to make it worth, is going to sign up for it. And that's not something that's going to be interesting enough for a news channel to pick it up. The people who did well, like even the guy, the scammer, he did well because he had, tech gadget, tech something, tech radar. I don't know, one of the tech things, several of the tech things, like really reputable people were like, this is awesome. Their product, the sample, everything's amazing. This is going to be great. Oh my gosh. And they had so many trustworthy people recommending them. And that's why people felt comfortable giving them their money. But it was a genius scam. I mean, the work that went into this scam was impressive. But anyway, he made millions off this scam. Nothing happened to him. They tried a class action, couldn't do it for some reason or another, because anyway, it's a whole other thing. But yeah, like the tarot cards in the art book, not going to be super successful because unless that person has a following. If they have a following now, that's different. But if they don't, then news doesn't care about that. They're not like, you're not going to have magazines or anybody like, here's a cool project, here's something amazing you guys need to check out. No one's going to do that. And that's why art, it really isn't a fit for Kickstarter. Now, if you invented a new project, now, the things on Kickstarter that did okay with art were a new art tool, a new art, like, item that artists wanted to buy. That would be something, because then you have art magazines are like, hey, check this item out. It looks like it's going to be cool. So more people shared it. But tarot cards and art book, no one's really, you'll have 5 people share it. Like, it's not going to go anywhere unless she already has a following. In which case, her followers buying those things would have been easier than Kickstarter anyway, I would have thought. Heather Bryant said, I have seen artists use Kickstarter to publish Inktober books or coloring books of their art, offering enamel, pens, and stickers, etc. as goals. Yeah, but how well did it do? Those usually, again, unless they have a following already, they're not going to do that well, because with Kickstarter, you've got to get it in front of more people. You've got to you need it to go viral for Kickstarter to do well. Those items are not going to go viral unless she already had a following. If she already had a following, they can do okay, but not terribly well. Barbara said, how did you get Gibson to pose so beautifully in all your reference photos? I try with my dog and all I get is a blur. See, okay, so why can't it connect to chat? What happened here? Am I still online? I think I'm still online. No, we're still going. Please try again later. Hold on. We'll see if that reconnects. I'm going to put the brush down for actually we're 9:50. We're good for painting now. I'll get caught up on questions unless this doesn't come back. I don't know. I don't even know if this live stream is still going. So for Gibson, to get him to pose, and the reason I'm going to put this down is I actually think this is super helpful for people. You need to learn how to get dogs to pose for you. Now, Gibson, I did this with him before he wasn't super used to me. He'd been here maybe 2 weeks, but I hadn't really spent much time as far as teaching him to lay down, teaching him to sit, teaching him to stay. So what I did, I'd started barely teaching him to lay down. So I got him to lay down or sit. Either one would have been fine for me. But you want one or the other because you want him to hold still. So I sat on the floor. You want to be eye level. I sat there. I had my camera on this knee. I'm right-handed. The shutter button for the camera is over on the right-hand side. I'm using my left hand to push it so I can look through, and I'm using my right hand to toss things. And my flip-flops worked the best. I tried dog toys and he's like, meh, whatever, don't care about that. My shoe, however, I took my flip-flop and I would toss it across the room and he's like, whoa. And it got him to put his ears forward, or we got giving ears, so that you had that expression. That and dog treats. I could toss them and he was like, what? He'd look down like, what was that? And that's how I got that. But you have to teach them to sit or lay down. You need one or the other so that they stay put while you toss things. Some dogs you can just take a squeaky toy. Now my girls, my Italian Greyhounds, they're taught very well to sit and stay. They know all of that already. So I can put them where I want them, and I can take my finger with a treat or a toy or just my finger and hold it, kind of wave it where I want them to look, and they'll naturally, they know to look, because that's, if they look there. You can do clicker training, that helps, but they know that treats are coming and they want to look at that hand. So they're actually very, very easy to photograph. I've got so many good photos of those two. But for him, because he wasn't super trained, he's still not trained that well. So he just getting him to lay down and then tossing things. If you have a dog who's super food motivated, don't toss food because they're going to dive after it. He's kind of like, meh, I might or I might not want that. But he wasn't going after it. And then when he wouldn't go after it, I tell him he was good. And then he had to learn I was going to give it to him if he waited. So you've got a little bit of training there while taking photos. And even when I worked with clients, when I went to their homes to take photos of their dogs, most people I worked with for some reason do not train their dogs. I do not understand having a dog and not training it. It makes no sense to me. But anyway, I would have to try to get the dog to first learn to sit and stay, or have someone hold them on a leash and get them to sit. But I needed them, again, either sit or lay down. Standing, they're too wiggly and moving in pace, moving their feet around. And that just got paint all over that. So it wasn't easy enough. Like the photos would always be slightly blurred in the face. So that was the way I would do it. And with the girls, one of the other things that I would do, I would put them on the couch because they're smaller, put them up on a couch or a bed or something like that and sit there with a tripod so I could easily get it focused on them, get everything where it needs to be, so I can just hit the shutter while being over here getting their attention, because I normally had to do it on my own. Now, if you can get somebody to help you, that will be even easier. Get the dog to lay down or sit. Again, have one person there, and or if you don't have to have the person hold them, the dog can stay there, one person tossing treats, and then one person, you hopefully manning the camera, and just you take a million. I think I had 100 and something photos I took of him that day, and maybe 10 of them were usable. So you're going to take a lot of photos. And yeah, I still don't have chat. What is going on here? Let me see really quick if I can open this in another window. 1 second. I don't know why that ended. Let's see if chat came back or not. Okay, yeah, there is chat. Of course, I've Oh, good. Okay. Let me scroll back up. And let's pull this as a, there we go. Creative Girl said, yeah, they had it with the tarot cards and such, they had a following already. Then it would work. So it's kind of weird because then they, with Kickstarter, then they're not dependent on having it go viral or whatever, their own fans, you know, they advertise for themselves. Let's see. Oh, and this isn't even playing. Oh, because I was muting it. That's why. That is weird. I'm having the issues tonight. Okay. Okay. Creative Girl said I was still going. See, and I couldn't see that you said I was still going because this stupid thing messed up. Nick said, my dog thinks he's a diva and loves to see a camera pointed at him. And you know what was funny about that? So my girls were so trained for they knew if they saw the camera, treats were coming. So they would, I would try to get like more random shots of the dogs, like, oh, look, they're being cute in the yard. I want to get photos. Nope. That camera came out. Echo was worse than Jessie. Echo saw that camera. She came and sat in front of me and waited. Like, okay, I'm here. Let's do it. And so I couldn't get those candid shots of her because she was like, camera means pose. So, which was really cute. You can't get mad at that. But it made it hard. Like, I'm trying to get those candid or her standing shots. Never. She sees it. She sits and waits. I trained her a little too well on that. Let's see. Blue says, I work for a glass blowing studio that ran a successful Kickstarter campaign. I actually wrote a blog with some tips if anyone is interested. Yeah, share that with everybody because that would be probably helpful for people if they're interested. But normally it's not going to be a fit for most people. There are better ways, I think, for artists to get their projects funded, and a lot of that really just comes down to building a following. I mean, you've got to build that following, and that's why when, you know, we talked about, or somebody had asked earlier, should I wait while I'm new with art? Should I wait until I get better with art before I start the social media and all that? No, start now. Start building that following now. Even if it's small, even like there's just so many benefits to starting now. Don't wait till you think you're big enough or good enough. You're going to be behind. You're already behind if that's the case. Start now. It's going to be slow. It will be slow no matter what when you get started. But this is the time, you know, while you're getting used to painting and all that, start building your brand, start learning how to design websites like WordPress. I love WordPress. You've got a Wix and Weebly and all these other ones you can go with. But start doing all of this now so that when you are at a stage where you're more advanced, you're starting to get a following and you already have learned, you know how to do social media. Even if you don't have a following yet at all, you learned how to do it. You learned how to use hashtags. You learned what works, what doesn't work a bit more, what you got a bit more of a reaction on. You know, all of that stuff you've already learned. And that stuff's a very, very big deal in being successful as an artist. So absolutely start learning that, doing that stuff now. Creative Girl said, what did you get for Christmas and have you ever been to the Louvre? I'm going to say no because I'm probably pretty sure I just said that wrong. I'm asking everyone because I really want to go. I don't know what that is. I don't leave the house. So there's that. But for Christmas, what did I get? I got Gibson. I got gift cards mostly and then a few little knickknacks for my mom. I can tell you what I spent my gift card money on. I bought a new rack thing, a big Craftsman rack to hold my, and storage totes to hold all my gardening stuff. That is in the garage. And a freezer for Gibson's dog food. So mostly I spent my money on Gibson. Oh, and I had to get a meat grinder for him. So yeah, that is where my Christmas money went. Let's see. Oh, why do I always wait till the end to say this? Make sure to check out our moderators' channels. Nick and Joseph both have channels here on YouTube, art channels. Links are in the description. Subscribe to them. Tell them thank you. They help me so much with these live streams. And the groups, the Facebook groups, God, my brain is done. I think we're just done. My brain is not working anymore. And I really should do more glazing on this tonight before I go to bed. But thank you guys so much for joining. Oh, look, I'm ending 2 minutes early because my brain is like, nope, had enough. We're done. I don't know what next week is. I'm trying to think. I thought I had something I wanted to do. I know there was an acrylic, but I need to do something with pencils because I did an acrylic for 2 weeks, you know, the 2-part and the 2-part with oil. I need to get something with pencils. I try to rotate everything so that people on Patreon I can kind of try to keep as many people as happy as possible, so we're constantly rotating mediums. I've got a couple of acrylic painting planned, but I don't know what, it'll be something in pencils, I'm sure. So anyway, yeah, that is it. I will see you guys next week. Thank you so much for joining, and I need sleep or more coffee. Something. I don't know. I need something. Bye.